right, so CBD, let's clear the air, right? So CBD stands for cannabidiol. First question here, how many people in this room have at some point in their life smoked marijuana? Okay, I wasn't expecting any hands to go up, right? How many people in this, so I don't need to ask my second question of how many people have smoked it in the last 2 months, so no need to answer that. All right, so CBD, let's clear the air. Now I'm gonna go back to another question real quick though. How many people have lied on a response to a raise your hand question in the last 5 minutes? That wasn't even, oh my God. All right, so CBD, let's clear the air. So my disclosures, all right, so first, what is CBD? Right, so CBD is shorthand for cannabidiol. Okay, so cannabidiol is the chemical term here, but I'll use CBD going forward. And it is found in both marijuana and in hemp. So you'll hear those two things used separately, marijuana and hemp. Okay, and it has absolutely no high associated with it. So CBD cannot get you high, all right? THC primarily activates the type 1 cannabinoid receptor. CBD activates neither the type 1 nor the type 2. It's one of the interesting things whenever I talk about cannabidiol with people, and people often bring up, well, there are cannabinoid receptors in the skin. And I say, yes, there are, and it has been proven that cannabidiol does not activate them. Right, so it's an interesting thing. You can't say there are cannabinoid receptors in the skin, and so cannabidiol should work in the skin. Nope, it does not activate the cannabinoid receptors. All right, so what is hemp versus marijuana? So that's an interesting question. All right, so hemp versus marijuana, both are exactly the same species of plants. So just like my wife's 2-pound teacup poodle is the exact same species as a Rottweiler, right, hemp and marijuana are the exact same species, just bred differently. So cannabis, right, it includes all of these. That's the actual formal name. Cannabis bred to have high THC is marijuana. Cannabis bred to have low or no THC is hemp. There is no like official cutoff of if it's got to have less than this. The closest thing to an official cutoff is 0.3%. So if it has 0.3% or less of THC, it is more considered hemp. If it has 0.3% or more of THC, the plant is more considered marijuana. Now, I will tell you that if you look at marijuana seed banks, right, so it is totally legal to order marijuana seeds because there is no THC in a marijuana seed, but you can look at what they sell. When you look at marijuana that is cultivated for getting people high, the THC content is around 20%. Right, so something that's 1% THC is still considered marijuana by the government, but it'd be really, 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 really hard to get high from smoking something that had 1% THC content. So it is relatively a artificial distinction between marijuana and hemp whenever you get down to the low concentrations. All right, so where is the CBD found? Okay, so THC is found in the flowers, in the buds, right? So that's why marijuana is sometimes called bud, because you get most of the THC from the flower. The CBD is found in hemp, right, as it can be, and it is also found in marijuana, but both CBD and THC are primarily found in the flower or in the bud, right? So you can't, for example, take a plant, take the flowers off to get the THC and then use the stems and the leaves to get the CBD. No, it really has to be a plant that is bred to be high CBD, and there is high CBD marijuana, and there's high CBD hemp, and there's low CBD marijuana and low CBD hemp, right? So you can't even just say hemp versus marijuana to get your CBD. You can get it in both. Okay, so now I just answered this question. Do all hemp products have CBD? Absolutely not. It's mainly found in the flowers. It is in the stems and leaves, but a lower concentration, but it's basically in the same place as the THC. Now, something that the sellers of CBD frequently use to mislead consumers and physicians is by describing the amount of hemp oil or hemp seed oil in their product. There is absolutely no CBD in hemp seeds or in hemp seed oil. Right? So they are really using the terminology and the assumptions that we all have. Oh, cannabinoid receptors must work on CBD. Oh, hemp seed oil, hemp is in CBD is in hemp, so it must be in hemp seed oil. No, it is not in hemp seed oil. It is purely the companies trying to mislead people into thinking they're getting more effect than they are from the products. Why has there been an explosion of CBD products, right? So my assumption was some new research must have come out. I remember hearing about this Charlotte's Web, this like little girl whose seizures got better. They must have done more research and found out that CBD really does something. Okay, is that what happened? Is that why there's now CBD in every store? Why every patient, not every patient, lots of patients come in, should I try CBD cream for this? Why aunts and uncles are calling me, hey, medically, is there any reason does this CBD stuff work? Like, what's the deal behind it? So new research about CBD showed absolutely nothing, okay? So nothing. Right? So why was there an explosion of CBD? There was an explosion of CBD because Mitch McConnell, the senator from Kentucky, who is the head of what legislation goes through the Senate, decided that he wanted Kentucky hemp farmers to be able to have a better market to sell their hemp. So the federal government in the Farm Act basically made CBD legal. So up until that point, CBD was considered basically the same as marijuana, and it was illegal to transport it across state lines. It was basically illegal to sell it. They made it legal, and so, of course, companies all said, hey, there's something new that's legal. People all, like marijuana in general, has a very good public perception. So marijuana has now become something that is considered very natural, very active, and has a very positive public perception, except for the fact that you get high. So all of these companies said, oh, now we can jump on the marijuana bandwagon of this positive perception, and it's legal, and we can say you don't get high. Had nothing to do with anybody showing that CBD actually works or does anything. Okay, so most supplements have very sketchy evidence behind them to begin with. CBD has much less evidence behind it as a supplement than even the sketchy supplements that are out there. And when I say sketchy, I am not saying they don't work. I'm saying the evidence behind, there's no evidence that they work, right? So I don't want you to hear me say that and think that I'm saying supplements are sketchy, supplements are baloney. I'm not saying that, right? I'm saying that when you look at the evidence for the effects of supplements, there isn't a ton. All right, so, but until then, it was a very gray area. If CBD was legal, it is now much less gray. And basically, if something comes from hemp, it is legal. If it comes from marijuana, it is not. So literally, if the government seized some shipment and got the material and looked at it and said, okay, there's 0.2% THC in here, the question of if it's legal or not has nothing to do with what's actually there. What matters is what did it come from. If it came from what is a marijuana plant, it's illegal. If it came from a hemp plant, it is legal. So it's one of those ridiculous government things where it makes no sense at all, but it doesn't matter what it actually is, it just matters what it came from. So a really interesting concept there, and the DEA and the FDA seem to be relatively on board with all of this. So again, why did it become popular? I mentioned this a couple of minutes ago. A little girl named Charlotte had a really bad seizure disorder. Her seizures couldn't be controlled with standard meds. Her parents moved to Colorado and had her start using a low THC, high CBD strain of marijuana, and it worked. And that fit perfectly into the belief systems of, oh, these damn pharmaceutical companies trying to pump us full of chemicals. We don't need chemicals, we need natural stuff. Right, so it fit perfectly into that, became a huge media darling, CNN documentaries about this family, all kinds of stuff. That's where the CBD craze kind of started. All right, now it meets the consumer definition of natural. I'm not going to go into the whole natural is baloney kind of thing. Everybody knows that. But big consumer definition of natural is composed of those big companies that want to keep us hooked on their damn drugs. Right, their parents fought for their little girl, so all the parents out there who are like, I would do anything for my kid. And these parents did anything for their kid. I'm just like them. They saved their kid's life just like I would save my kid's life. Right, that's the why this became so popular and became such a dynamic media event, because it fits so well into what everybody wants. Right, so the next question, though, and really now that was all kind of background. Okay, so now is there evidence? Is there any reason to think CBD does anything in your skin? Okay. Lots of evidence that it is theoretically possible that it does something for skin, all based on the findings that there are cannabinoid receptors in the skin, 2 types of receptors, and those cannabinoid receptors have lots of activities in keratinocytes, but CBD doesn't work on those cannabinoid receptors. So whatever mechanism CBD actually has in the skin, if it does something, and to be honest, we have no idea if it does or it doesn't. If it does, it's not via cannabinoid receptors, or not, at least not via known cannabinoid receptors. Okay, so any evidence that it does something in actual people, right? Rather than just saying there are cannabinoid receptors in your skin, no, I can find no evidence, no credible, realistic evidence that it does something whenever it's applied topically. Again, am I saying it doesn't do anything in your skin? I am not. I'm saying I can find no evidence that it does. I can find no reason why saying putting CBD in your cream is going to make it work better than I can say putting extract of ragweed in your cream is going to make it work better, or extract of dog poop, right? Whatever. There's no reason to think CBD is going to be better than anything else. It may be, right? But we don't have evidence to support it, right? Now, most of the evidence that it does something for anxiety, insomnia, seizure disorders, right? All of the evidence showing that CBD taken orally really does something is at doses of usually about 100 milligrams a day, probably closer to 300 milligrams a day taken orally. Okay, there is now an FDA-approved drug that is CBD, just like there's an FDA-approved drug that's marijuana. Right, so THC, which is the drug is called dronabinol or Marinol. I prescribe it pretty regularly. I think it makes people care less about their skin disease. I don't think it does anything for their skin disease, but it makes them care less. Right, now patients don't like how it makes them feel. When you take THC without CBD, it actually makes you more anxious. So patients don't like it, but it does make a difference for me in some of these patients. But whenever you look at the available CBD products out there that you could take orally, 100 milligrams a day, which is probably the absolute minimum you need for a real effect. Now, when I say real effect, 10 milligrams a day may give you a fabulous placebo effect, and placebo effect is just as effective as real effect. But to something that would work in a randomized trial where you didn't know what you were getting, where you weren't taking it and saying, oh, I'm taking CBD, I bet my anxiety is going to be better. Right? If you take away placebo effect, you probably need at least 100 milligrams a day, and that's going to be at least $250 a month. Probably a lot more than that if you want to take enough CBD to do something, more like 200 to 300 milligrams a day. So now you're looking at close to $1,000 a month if you want to see if CBD is going to help with your anxiety or your insomnia. And almost all CBD products sold commercially, it's hard to tell exactly what's in it. Right, so lots of non-CBD cannabinoids. Remember that there's no CBD in hemp oil. And again, I didn't say it doesn't work. I just said that there's no evidence that it works. Okay, so it's a very different story about might it work. It might. So what do I tell patients? Right, most accurate. I have no idea. Right, if a patient asks me about CBD, my answer is literally, we really medically have no idea if it does anything. I tell them if you're gonna try it, really don't think it's gonna cause any problems, but taking it orally could cause a positive drug test, right? So I have a family member who before I got into all of this and just did a little research on it, said, hey, try taking Charlotte's Web CBD oil for your anxiety. He started taking it, got drug tested at work, tested positive, right? CBD cannot cause a positive drug test, but almost all CBDs are contaminated with enough THC to cause a positive drug test, especially when taken orally. So if you're going to use CBD, expect that if you get a drug test, you're probably going to test positive. All right? Now, are there products to recommend? So I use a website called Consumer Lab that I subscribe to. I think it's like $20 a year. They independently test supplements, and these were their top picks. Top selections of the products that they have tested. There might be, I'm not saying that like these are the best products, I'm just saying that these have what they are supposed to have in them. But again, if you look at the kind of what it says on these, so the amount of hemp extract, the second one down, the amount of hemp extract and organic hemp seed oil were not listed. It says 25 milligrams of full spectrum cannabinoids, and in this one it actually had 22.3 milligrams per 15 drops. Right? If you go up above, 60 milligrams of hemp oil, 15 milligrams of CBD, they did actually find 15 milligrams of CBD, but then you go down to the bottom one, 500 milligrams of full spectrum hemp extract per container. Wow, that is so much, right? But the CBD, 6.6 milligrams, other cannabinoids, 3.6, so it's really only 2/3 CBD and 1/3 other stuff. So and these are the best ones. Right, so some of the products out there that have been tested really didn't have any CBD in them. So you really have to be careful when you're buying supplements. That's been shown over and over. That's why and I don't really take supplements. I more use this because I'm really interested in this whole topic of supplements. And so I like to look them up and see if I'm going to tell a patient to start taking something like ox bile, I'm going to see if I'm going to look up ox bile on here, right? So things like that I find helpful. And so, again, what do I tell patients? I ask why they are asking. If it's because they heard it's great, I tell them that we don't know, but I don't think it's worth the money. If a friend or family member is using something and it's working great, I tell them to try that product because that's how I'm going to get the best placebo effect, is by having them take something that they already believe works. And if they have a real skin disease, I tell them I don't think it works, but if they can access medical marijuana, it will help. Right? Now, why will medical marijuana help? Again, because they just won't care anymore about their skin disease, right? And I'm not making that up, right? I regularly say this to people. Ohio has medical marijuana. I don't have the thing to be able to prescribe it, but it just makes people not care anymore. And that is it. Thank you.